You say you want someone kind, someone patient, someone who really sees you. You say you want love that's soft, stable, safe, and maybe you do. But when that kind of love finally knocks, you hesitate. You tell yourself they're too nice, that there's no spark, no tension, no fire. But when someone cold walks in, someone who doesn't return your calls, who teases your emotions, who's inconsistent and unpredictable, suddenly you're obsessed. You wait for their messages like they're oxygen. You analyze every word they say. You lie awake wondering what you did wrong. Why? Because we don't fall for what's good for us. We fall for what's familiar. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the hidden self, the unacknowledged wounds, the stories we never chose but now repeat, endlessly. If love once meant anxiety, meant chasing, proving, performing, then peace will feel foreign. If your childhood taught you that attention comes through achievement, that affection must be earned, then unconditional love will feel suspicious, untrustworthy, almost fake. So, when someone offers it freely, you doubt them. You look for flaws. You pull away. But when someone triggers your abandonment wound, you feel alive, because that pain is familiar. And what's familiar feels like home. Here's the hard truth. You're not drawn to who they are. You're drawn to who you had to be around people like them. You're not falling in love. You're falling into a memory. And until you face that shadow, that unconscious force that pulls the strings, you'll keep calling pain passion and emptiness love. But it's not love. It's the echo of a wound still waiting to be heard. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the theologian who stood defiant against tyranny, once said, "We must be ready to allow ourselves to be interrupted by God." But many of us have replaced the voice of God with the voice of longing, a deep, aching hunger, not just for connection, but for validation. You think it's love, but look closer. It's not really about them. It's about what they represent. Their attention feels like proof that you are finally enough, that someone, this time, might stay. But it's not them you're chasing. It's the version of you that you believe might finally exist in their approval. Every unanswered text, every moment of silence becomes a mirror to your deepest fear, that you are forgettable, unworthy, too much. So you try harder, you love harder, you shrink. You twist yourself into shapes just to fit into someone else's arms. Arms that never fully hold you. Why? Because somewhere along the way, you learn that love is a transaction, that your needs were a burden, that being chosen was conditional. You learn to become what others wanted, not out of choice, but out of survival. And now, desire has become a wound masquerading as romance. The people you crave most are often the ones who reflect your greatest insecurities. Not because you're broken, but because your soul is trying to rewrite the past, to finally win the love it was once denied. But that's the cruel trick of it. You can't fix the wound by returning to what caused it. You won't heal by trying to be lovable to the ones who cannot love. Real healing begins when you stop chasing proof and start reclaiming your worth. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man, intelligent, introspective, gentle. He had spent years searching for someone to share his heart with. Then he met her. She was fire and freedom, mysterious, radiant, untouchable. She said all the right things, but her actions always arrived a few steps late. Sometimes she'd disappear for days, then return with soft eyes and apologies that felt like confessions. He forgave her, every time. He believed her absence was proof of her depth, that her inconsistency meant she was complicated, not careless. He mistook her chaos for complexity and made a shrine of her silence. Because for him, the pain of not being chosen wasn't unfamiliar. It was sacred. Each time she came back, he felt victorious, as if his patience, his love, his suffering were finally working. But here's the uncomfortable truth. He didn't love her. Not really. He loved the idea that he could rescue her, that he could be the one who was finally enough for someone who loved no one. That fantasy gave his pain meaning. His loyalty became his identity. His hurt became a form of self-worth. This is what the unavailable do to us. They awaken the rescuer, the romantic, the child still aching for someone to stay. But people are not puzzles to solve. They're not projects to fix. And love, true love, isn't earned through suffering. When we chase the unavailable, what we're really chasing is a version of ourselves that believes love must be won. But real love doesn't require performance. It asks only for presence. And those who cannot offer presence, no matter how magnetic, can never give you peace. Niccolò Machiavelli is often misunderstood, seen as ruthless, manipulative, the father of cold strategy. But beneath the surface of his cynicism, he understood something painfully human. The one who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. In love, we are master deceivers, not of others, but of ourselves. We tell ourselves stories. We romanticize the breadcrumb givers, the emotionally absent, the ones who hurt us, ghost us, then whisper just enough to keep us hoping. We rewrite their indifference as mystery. We interpret their cruelty as a test of loyalty. We paint their neglect with the brushstrokes of destiny. Why? Because we would rather believe in a lie that feels familiar than face a truth that leaves us alone. Machiavelli knew people don't just want to be loved. They want to feel powerful in love. And when you're chasing someone who withholds, who makes you question your worth, you become consumed with earning their attention. You think if you can unlock their affection, if you can win them, then it proves something about you. But that's not connection. That's conquest. And in that game, you always lose more than you gain. Your boundaries, your peace, your sense of self. The truth is, you're not in love with them. You're addicted to the chase, to the hope that maybe this time, the one who is closed off will finally open for you. But closed hearts don't open from the outside, and no amount of effort will make someone ready to love you the way you deserve, especially when your love is just a mirror to their control. Real love doesn't keep you guessing. It meets you clearly, without games. Ban Janoi. In his allegory of the cave, Plato describes prisoners chained since birth, facing a wall, watching shadows projected by objects behind them. To them, those shadows are reality, because it's all they've ever known. But imagine if one prisoner escapes. He sees the truth, that the shadows were just illusions, that there's a whole world beyond the cave, a world with light, depth, truth. At first, the light burns. He wants to return to the darkness. It's safer there, predictable. But if he stays in the light long enough, he sees everything differently. And when he returns to the cave, trying to free the others, they resist. They mock him. They cling to their chains. Because leaving the cave means letting go of what felt real, even if it was a lie. That's how most of us love. We've lived in emotional caves. Raised on dysfunction, we mistake tension for passion. We romanticize distance, unpredictability, suffering. We form an ideal in our minds, the person who is cold but deep, elusive but worth it. Hard to love, but meant for us. That ideal becomes our shadow on the wall, and when someone kind comes along, someone stable, honest, available, we look away. We say it feels flat, unreal, but the truth is, we're still chained to the image of love as pain. We believe that the more we sacrifice, the more worthy the connection must be. But sacrifice is not the same as soul. Intensity is not the same as intimacy. Real love is not the shadow. It's the light that's been waiting outside your cave all along. You just have to be brave enough to step into it, even if your eyes need time to adjust. Here's the part no one wants to admit. Somewhere deep inside, you're still loyal to your pain. Not because you enjoy it, not because you're weak, but because it's the only language of love you've ever learned to speak. You say you want peace, but chaos feels like home. You say you want stability, but instability excites your nervous system like a song it remembers by heart. There's a part of you that still believes, if I hurt enough, they'll stay. If I shrink myself, I'll be loved. If I give more, prove more, endure more, then maybe this time I won't be abandoned. It's not madness, it's memory. Your inner child is still sitting in the dark, waiting for someone to come back, still believing that love must be earned, that you are too much, too emotional, too needy to be loved without condition. So you chase the ones who confirm that story, the ones who never fully choose you, the ones who keep you guessing. Because if you can get them to love you, then maybe you're finally enough. But that's the trap. You're not healing. You're reliving. You're repeating the trauma in prettier packaging, calling it fate, calling it passion, calling it love. But it's not love. It's a familiar ache dressed as destiny, and until you're willing to grieve the fantasy, to mourn the love you never received, to stop proving and start protecting yourself, you'll stay caught in a loop where pain feels like home and peace feels suspicious. Healing begins when you stop asking broken people to fix the story they never wrote. So, what now? How do you begin to unlearn the ache you've mistaken for love? How do you stop craving the people who harm you in beautiful ways? You begin by stepping out of the cave. You stop calling pain passion. You stop equating anxiety with desire. You stop confusing intensity for intimacy. You learn to sit with the quiet, the stable, the safe. At first, it feels dull, almost uncomfortable, because when you've spent your whole life riding emotional roller coasters, peace feels like boredom. But that stillness, that calm, that's the sound of your nervous system exhaling. That's love, unwrapped from chaos. It's in the awkward silence with someone who doesn't play games, in the slow-building trust that doesn't trigger your survival instincts. In the moments where you feel seen, not because you're performing, but because you're simply you. Breaking the pattern isn't glamorous. It's not fireworks and grand gestures. It's choosing to walk away from what feels familiar but hurts. It's saying no to the ones who leave you guessing, and yes to the ones who show up quietly, consistently, fully. It's feeling the urge to chase, to fix, to prove, and choosing instead to pause, to breathe, to ask, is this love? Or is this a wound wearing perfume? You begin to reparent yourself, to become the love you never received, to hold your own hand when the child inside cries out for validation. And one day, without warning, you meet someone who doesn't awaken your trauma, but your truth. Someone who doesn't light a fire to watch it burn, but sits beside it to keep it warm. That's how you know. You've stepped out of the loop and into love. there's something you need to hear and believe, not just in your mind, but in your bones. You're not hard to love. You were just taught to search for love in places that could never give it. You've spent years begging for crumbs and thinking the hunger was your fault. But the truth? You're not too sensitive. You're not too much. You're not unworthy. You were just trying to get water from a stone. And when it didn't flow, you blamed yourself. You thought if you became quieter, sweeter, more accommodating, if you smiled through the tears, if you loved them just right, they'd finally stay. But some people don't know how to hold softness, not because you're broken, but because they are. And you've made a pattern out of proving yourself to people who couldn't even see you. But that stops now, because now you're waking up. Now you see the difference between being chosen and being used, between being admired and being truly loved. You understand that someone who loves you won't leave you anxious at 2 a.m., rewriting your worth based on their silence. You see that real love doesn't demand that you shrink, bend, chase, or beg. Real love expands you. It steadies you. It meets you fully. So the next time someone makes you feel like you're asking for too much, remember this. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. The love you deserve doesn't need to be earned. It simply needs to be received. And one day, when you've stopped auditioning for affection, you'll realize something beautiful. You've always been enough. You just forgot. But now, you remember.